Nice! Real nice! Nice! This caliper piston won't even pull in. Junk. This is a 2006 Kia Sorento bucket. Once something gets this bad, you know, people want to neglect their stuff. They don't take care of anything. I don't know. It looks like they put a junkyard caliper in it God knows how many years ago. You don't even deal with it. You just replace everything. I mean, there's no point in trying to make any of this work. So I'm going to put all 4 calipers on it, all 4 rotors, and brand new pads. And this thing's going to work again. When it came in, the only tire that was breaking was the left front. So I almost took out my wall trying to pull it in here. I don't know how they got it here. They drove the thing here on one brake. And it's all icy and nasty outside right now. So, yeah, I'm not even going to deal with it. I'm just going to show you how to do all this. I got to do a brake flush to it. There's no brake fluid in the reservoir. It's all gone. So, okay, fun. I'm going to pinch off all of these lines, these brake lines, all 4 of them. You don't want to pinch these too hard. You just want a very light pinch. I'm going to use a needle nose vice grip on this one. By the time I get done, I won't have any vice grips left, I'm sure. But yeah, just a really light pinch. You don't want to crush the hose. You just want to pinch it off. I'll be taking that caliper off. These should be 14 millimeter, these caliper support brackets. Rotor off of here. Here's the e-brake. There's nothing left of it. I knew I was going to see that. It never did work, so I'm just going to take all this stuff off and throw it in the trash. I'm sure she's not going to want to pay to fix that. And it's a fun thing too, you know. The guy dropped this off for the mom, and the mom says, well, I didn't think it was that bad because I told her what I needed to do, and of course, anybody's going to get sticker shock with all the parts this thing's going to need. And, you know, I just got to think, how could you not know? You know, how could you think that whatever noise this was making wasn't that bad? And she just waited until the thing didn't work anymore. Ridiculous. She could have killed somebody. Well, I'm just going to get all, I don't know, destructive taking this stuff apart because I don't have to care. Yeah, I mean, this was making noise on the drum, grinding on the drum. The rear caliper was rubbing on the road, on the rim of the tire, and the right front, the pad completely fell out, puked fluid all over the place, and the pad was rubbing on the tire. But before that, the front brake was grinding. So how could you think it wasn't that bad? I don't know how I can hear that and have it make sense. It's like the dentist, you know. You hear something wrong with your car, you get it looked at right away, because you know. It's just like the dentist. You get a cavity in your tooth, you get a small cavity, well, that's a cheap fix. He drills a little hole in it and he fills it. You wait 5 years and it's going to cost you thousands of dollars to fix your damn tooth. Anyways, I'm going to stop griping and get this caliper off here. This bolt right here is a 12 millimeter on this brake line. The banjo bolt. Yeah, the other caliper too, it doesn't even move. It's locked right up. Take a pry bar and pry this thing apart. There. Same with this banjo, it's a 12 millimeter. Wow, how does that have brake fluid in it? That's an amazing story. Wow. Here, I thought all the brake fluid was on the tire. Wow. Yeah, I hope that master cylinder works. Because she's been pumping junk for a long time. I might have to replace a master on this too. We'll see. Looks like these are a 19 millimeter. I'm just going to take it all off in one piece. Nice. What the heck was that? So this is what happens when your brakes grind and you don't take care of it right away. What happens is it grinds down the rotor enough. See how thin this rotor is? She was just grinding down the rotor because it was metal on metal, and it gets so thin that this pad goes in between the caliper and the rotor and falls out, and then it rubs on the rim. And I've seen some idiots run these so bad that it actually cuts the rim in half because the pad is sitting down on the rim, cutting it open. And then your piston comes out, and then your piston is the only thing that's stopping the rotor until it gets out far enough, and then it just basically the pistons, they're not even in anymore. So it just pukes all the fluid right out. You got no pressure, you got no front brakes. And in her case, these rear brakes, the pistons were locked up so bad that they weren't even working. So she had no rear brakes and she had a left front brake, and I don't even know how this worked at all. This one's still got the factory screws on the rotor. So I always use an impact driver for this. How these work is you kind of, on this one you got to kind of turn it counterclockwise. You put counterclockwise force on it, you whack it with a hammer, and when it smashes down on it, it turns it counterclockwise and it breaks these loose. Or at least it's supposed to. It's turning, but it's all rusted in. Oh, this is some serious junk. I'm going to use an impact now that I got it loose because they're rusted in really bad, and I want to save myself from getting carpal tunnel. Yeah, that one broke. Hopefully I get just as lucky with this one. Yep, that one broke. Okay, I'm going to get some new parts. Before I start putting new brake parts on, I'm going to start bleeding out this system. I just put a brake fluid bottle upside down. That'll fill it up, and just so long as the bottle is down inside the reservoir, it's not going to go all over the place. So it shouldn't fall over either. There, it's totally full, and it'll just keep filling itself when it needs it. Now I'm just going to go on the left rear here, or the right rear because it's the longest brake line. I'm just going to take off my clamp, just let it drip until it gets nice clean fluid coming out of it. And I'm going to just let it drip while I do the front brakes. These always have a little bit of oil on them, oil, Cosmoline, whatever they put on them. I've used everything under the sun to try to figure out how to clean these things. Brake cleaner, soapy water, whatever people tell you. Glass cleaner's the best. I really like using glass cleaner. It takes this stuff right off, and it doesn't leave any residual junk on it. Just make sure there's no fuzz on it either from your rag. I'm going to get any rust and high spots off of this hub so the rotor sits nice and square. when you get these caliper support brackets too, you want to pull these pins out and make sure they're lubricated. Once in a very great while, you might get a dry one. It's happened to me. And these threads are butched. I gotta chase these threads. You run these things through a tumbler or whatever, and sometimes they're just not right. Another thing you want to do when you buy remanufactured calipers is you want to look at this seal. This surface right here, you want to make sure that it's not all marred up and screwed up, because sometimes they are. If it's not square and clean, you're going to want to get a different one. I ran a 12 by 125 thread chaser down this. If you got the same problems and you don't have a tap or a thread chaser, then I guess you're just going to have to fall in love with this remanufactured stuff some other way. The wear indicator always goes on the inside. And the tire turns counterclockwise going forward, so I put it on the top on the left side. Doesn't really matter too much. Usually the top wears out faster though. I put disc brake quiet on the piston and the contact surfaces of the brake pad. If you buy this stuff in pairs too, you got to make sure that there's an L right here to make sure you get on the left side. But what you really got to worry about is you got to make sure that this bleeder screws on the top. If you put the wrong one on this side, it'll be on the bottom and you won't be able to bleed out all the air. Make sure the banjo is nice and clean. The crush washers go in between the banjo, of course. Well, these are kind of tricky. There's really no good torque for them. You just got to keep tightening it down, and you'll feel them washers crush. They're made to crush to seal. I just go by feel. You just get to a point where you can kind of tell they're crushed all the way, and then just go a little bit more. After you bleed the brakes, you want to put a whole bunch of pressure down and check all four corners and make sure that these banjos aren't leaking. And if they are, just tighten them a little more until they stop leaking. And if they always leak, take it apart. You might have dirt in here, or there might be something screwed up, and then just get new stuff and do it all over. Okay, that's it for the front. I'm going to leave this vice grip on here too for now until I'm all done. Nice backing plate, huh? The right rear is nice and clean, so I'm going to gravity bleed the left rear now while I'm doing these brakes on this side. I ended up chasing the threads on this support bracket too. These are 10 by 125. I'll put that banjo on after this is done dripping and I get nice clean clear fluid out of it. I got all the corners bled except for this one. I wanted to show you how I do all this stuff, so I left this for last. I'm just going to open this bleeder and let it go until clean clear fluid comes out of it. Okay, this is all nice, clean, clear fluid coming out of here, and there's no air bubbles coming out of it, so I'm going to close this back up. I'm going to put my clamp back on it. I'll show you why in a little bit. Okay, I have all four calipers completely bled out, and I got vice grips on all four of the flexible hoses, so still. What I want to do is this brake bottle, I went pretty much through a whole bottle. There's just a little bit left in here. I want to take that out. I'll put the cap back on here just because. And the reason why I do this is because I want to test this master cylinder and see if it's still good. For one, if there's any air that's still trapped in the master, this should push it back up out into the reservoir instead of going down into the line. And if this master cylinder isn't any good, I'm going to get a squishy pedal. So I'm just going to hit it, and it's way up on top. There's nothing. There's no squishy, spongy. It's not bleeding down or anything. So that's telling me all the air is completely out of the master cylinder, and it's out of all of the lines, and the master cylinder is working. Now I can just go ahead and take the vice grips off of all four corners of these lines. I double checked all my work too, made sure everything's tight. Okay, I got all four of them off. Now I want to go back upstairs here. I want to load up these calipers. It's gonna lower the brake fluid level a little bit, and it's gonna load up the calipers. And if there's any air still in the calipers that got like stuck around the outside of the pistons or anything, it's all gonna come to the top of the calipers. Give it a couple good stomps. I'm going to put all my might on this brake pedal and make sure it doesn't bleed down at all. It's not bleeding down. I got a nice pedal. It's decent. It feels like new. Now after I do that, I want to run around all four corners and crack the bleeder. A lot of times there's a little bit of air that'll come out that got stuck in the caliper. If you want to, you can hit it with something. Give the caliper some raps with something soft, and that'll help the air stuck in the in the caliper come up too. It looks really good. So I'm going to do that to all four corners, and that's it. Okay, I'm down to the last caliper here. Crack it open, see all that air coming out of it and some pink looking goo from the assembler. And I went around and I checked all the banjos. I made sure none of those were leaking, and they're not. They're all nice and dry. I'm going to put some tires on it now and let it buck. This is a real good brake job. Okay, bye.